Thank you very much. My name's Steve Malone. I work for York Archaeology, but not up here, not in the York office. I'm based in the Nottingham office, and what was part of Trent and Peak Archaeology once upon a time. So I do a lot of work on the Trent Valley and the riverine landscapes. And before that, for a long time in Lincolnshire, east of England, so I've done a lot of work out there in the fenland, which maybe where the focus goes quite a bit. Kristina is our head of geoarchaeology. Her name is on the presentation, but she isn't able to be here today because she is in one of those gravel quarries in the Trent. She prepared a few things on the slides. Because I'm on camera, I'll get my excuses in first in case you see these, because I might not be able to use them as much as I want to. I was leaning on her a bit for some case studies, because obviously her side of things, she uses some of this information again in the quarries, in the fenland. We've been involved in pipeline schemes, reservoirs, and things like that. I call it the colour and the shape. The shape, we've seen some very nice Lidar earthworks so far today. Some of the things I show you, the surface expression is part of what we want to look at, but really it's landforms, landscape, and using the colour ramps for defining very fine topographic details of the fens and the river valleys, which help us understand and interpret the settlement and use of the landscape, and in some ways the crop mark plots as well. Am I going forward, back? Something that I obviously shouldn't have done. I'll just use the arrow and so on. Right. When I saw the call for papers and thought, 18 years of aerial archaeology, I did wonder, what have I been doing in those 18 years, really, or 16 years? This is something I presented in Ljubljana in 2008. So I've been working on this for a long time. I was working in the trend then. I can't remember if I actually used the poster at the time, but it sits above my desk now. So the genesis of this goes back quite a long way, working with the Environment Agency on the Witham Valley Archaeological Research Committee, and they said, we've got all this lovely LiDAR data, would you like to use it? This is going back, way before this open data environment now, and just sort of putting in ever more ambitious data requests and receiving things on CD and gradually building up this pattern of the fenland and what we could see there, starting up in the Witham Valley was the bit that we could see this prehistoric river there. The Witham now is canalised all the way along that side and down, sort of gradually expanding it into the fenland. We got some money from Historic England, just a couple of reports looking at it, so that we could actually share this data. It's just imagery, georeference mosaics that went to the HER, and they have been used in various ways. Dale Trimble at House of Lincolnshire worked mostly in the south of Lincolnshire. They have curatorial oversight, and he still thinks it's great and says he uses it sort of virtually every day. So it has had some use. So I was thinking, well, what has become of this over 16 years? Has it been used? But it has, and I have revisited it with, as we shall see, with some of the more up-to-date data sets. So yes, it got uses. We have this enormous Bicker Fen substation out in the fens, and so before they started thinking about putting everything on pylons, there'd been a lot of the Viking link, lots of schemes to bring offshore cabling through the fenland, through to link up with that. So the data has been used in various ways, looking at these landscapes and looking at the impacts on it. Peter Chown was very keen to use it to look at the setting of barrow cemeteries on the fen edge, off the Lincolnshire fen edge. So he used some of those things there. Did provide some information to Ian Simmons, did a lot of work in the East Fen of Lincolnshire. He reused some of his book, and they reproduced it in black and white, which isn't quite the point of the colour scheme, which we will come to. So, I've mentioned the fenland already in various places that we're saying where we are, and obviously we're up there in York, for this big chunk of landscape in the east of England around the Wash. The whole fen's about 4,000 square kilometres of landscape, and this is that first LiDAR map that I've been working on, and actually expanded from the version that was on the poster, which was just the Lincolnshire fens. Subsequently added in the Norfolk edge of the fens, sort of went down into the Cambridgeshire fens to create this larger mosaic. So pre-NLP, there were lots of gaps. There were gaps in the data, not in the low-lying land, but there were gaps, not very satisfactory gaps over here. actually some gaps within the fenland areas. And because these mosaics were just processed imagery, the georeferenced images, but the mosaics really were just images, and well, you can see they're not seamless, some of them. I discovered moving into Cambridgeshire that parts of the Cambridgeshire fens go down to some 2 metres below sea level, whereas I'd carefully designed my colour scale in Lincolnshire to start at 0. It really didn't work, so we've got this awkward line in the middle of everything. And so that sat there for a long time, being used, not really being updated, until actually only just earlier this year I thought, well, I've been working with the NLP, National Lidar Programme data, for a long time, for other purposes now. Shall I revisit it and see if I can create something better? Which is this. So this is a seamless mosaic. It's not just an imagery mosaic. I have a 40 gigabyte mosaic of the NLP data that cover that whole area and that we can use in various ways. And we'll look at a few things that we can see. Just to explain a little bit of what we're looking at in the landscape, it's fairly, I hope, intuitive cartographic colours in that white and blue are low-lying, and we go up through green, yellow, browns to higher land. What's not intuitive about the fenland is the peculiar inverted topography that we're looking at. Most of what's white and blue is peatland, fenland. It would probably once have been at the same elevation as a lot of that, but under the drainage, post-medieval drainage, it has deflated, shrunk, and so what's left behind often are the silt-filled sort of watercourses, rodents, which have been under marine influence, marine silts have flooded in, and they're actually now standing higher than the surrounding landscape. You can see this effect somewhat in these big, what were once sort of big meres, sort of peat fen, but the silts, you can see these blues and greens, these silts that have been pushed in by marine flooding, but they haven't been able to get into those areas because it's been full of peat. We've drained it now, it's deflated, sometimes by a couple of metres. Those areas of land are actually more lower lying compared to all the areas around. So I won't go into enormous detail about all of that, but these silt-filled rodents provide firmer ground within the landscape, and they have been a focus for settlement, particularly Roman settlements, being on the extensive crop moat landscapes. You saw a little bit of fenland earlier, of the fens. They often focus on these, and looking at them in relation to that topography can be enormously helpful. I would say, you would have noticed, I changed the colour ramp slightly when I went from there to there, because some of these sort of light blue features have got Roman settlement all over them, and it's just sort of gives you a better impression for what was effectively dry land or not under a marine influence at the time. Well, can look at that area there, just to begin with. So, crop moat landscapes of the fenlands. Now, this is very old. This is from the Fenland and Roman times, 1970. In many ways, it's still one of the best plots of the South Lincolnshire, showing the extensive landscape of crop marks. Also very useful in that they labelled all the settlement sites, and in fact shaded where there's artefact scattered, so these are centres of settlement. And it's a fascinating thing to try and unpick, but it makes a huge difference if you put the topography on and you see where those settlements are actually sitting, where the networks of trackways are focusing on these dry silts of the fenland. We'll come back to this, go down to the sort of Gedney Hill down there, and look at a couple of things that we can see in all of this. I said surface expression wasn't the main thing I was looking at, but it is there. Put these side by side. These are turbidries. I can't remember if it's Upwell Fen or Outwell Fen, maybe people in the room who know. Very visible from the air. They've been well mapped in the past, but the LiDAR is showing us the actual topographic expression of them. They are 3D features. They're not just. And again, this weird inverted topography. These were peat cuttings, Roman turbidries. They've dug the peat out of them. They've been filled in with silt under sort of marine influence, flooding events. And then the peat around it is deflated, and so the silt is sitting up higher than everything else. It was just the peat that they were digging out before. I put them side by side because that was my old colour ramp. Actually, they show a lot better my colour ramp, so you can't win. You change things for one reason, and you can't always win because they show in different ways. Another example of some things as you know, Lidar earthwork features almost. This is a curiosity. Is this amazing using Lidar to see crop marks in the fens? No, it's just a sort of freak expression in a couple of fields. The crop, well, we saw the example with the windblown sort of lodged crop out in the fens as well. This is an example where they've just blown at perfectly the right time. The crop marks are actually physical, you know, features. It's higher than the rest of the field, and the Lidar can pick it up. It might seem a wonderful thing to try and use, but I looked at a whole 5 kilometre square block, and there's that field, and one other field are in this condition where it actually shows, and you know, there are crop marks all over the fields around this. Iron Bar Drove, very extensive area, so a curiosity, but it struck me when I saw that. So I'm going to do a couple of more things, looking at, you know, here's the crop mark in the landscape. We started up there before, coming down to Gedney Hill, because in looking at all, I was struck by this feature running through across here, which was mapped at this end a long time ago, going back before 1970, but appears to be part of what effectively looks like a canal feature running out through that way and coming in onto this Rodden here. And in fact, if we just look at that bit there, Google Earth photo, there has been some flying here focused on that, but the Google Earth photo of that junction, I would say that's the canal. That's the canal coming into a junction of roads and trackways, effectively, you know, I think it's an inland port or canal basin, more or less, matching with those Roman crop marks. To look at again, this is where it is, running out that way, coming in here, turning it around, meeting this. Now again, some aspects of this have been mapped, some of this is filled in from Google Earth photos. We've got to Waplow Drove, going down to Throttenholt, Murrow, Parsons Road, into areas of Cambridgeshire, which are very well mapped by Roger Palmer in the Fenland project. Where does it come from? Or where is it going? We come out to here, into a wider view. And it's going out to there. This is again one of these great big meres where the peat is deflated and gone. And you can see the silts have sort of pushed it around it. This seems to just be a coincidence. I don't know, do I believe it's a complete coincidence? This does actually sort of overlap slightly with there, it doesn't join it. I'm wondering, you know, does it join some of these features? With Beach, this is the Nene estuary, all filled with later flood silts out beyond the Medina sea bank, all reclaimed, canalised river running out into the wash. Are some of these Roman rivers, are they providing access to the sea? That is up there. So I think perhaps they are. So this is another chunk of very similar stuff. This is scheduled monument, earthworks of this Roman settlement still survive. Again on this mapping, well, we've got this sinuous channel form running out that way. And actually rather better if I take the crop marks off this one. And you can see this sort of silt fill feature, well, it's not natural, you know, it's coming to these Roman settlements. And if that's artificial, then it really looks as though this, you know, watercourse is feeding it. This is sort of Roman river, effectively, connecting out. Now, can't we see where it's going? We've got a big fan of silt coming in over the top of all that, and can we really see where it's going to go? It could go up there somewhere, or this could be the river, again, going out to that same Nene estuary north of Wisbech, and going out to the sea and providing sort of access all the way in to these sort of Roman crop mark landscapes. Now, I'll talk about the fact that that first set of Fenland tiles that I produced, going back to sort of 2008 and after, are provided. They're just sort of, you know, image tiles, 5 kilometre 10 square blocks, geo-referenced, but they're, you know, put in various repositories. People can use them. But times move on, we do things differently. The NLP mosaic that I have now put together, that's the big Siemens American tiles, it's in QGIS, marvellous tool, and now exported as XYZ tiles, which are available, they're lodged on a web server. They can be viewed in leaflet mapping, and so anyone can explore and look at this data now. I've put it out there. There's a web address down there. At the end, I'll put my email address up, or you can come and approach me afterwards. Googling fenland Lidar and York Archaeology will get you to it. It gets you to my personal pages. So let me put some of these links, but there's a version of the map out there. Because they're XYZ tiles and web mapping server, they can be incorporated into a GIS. Anybody uses ARC or QGIS, again, contact me, ask me, I can provide you with an address. You can load those into a GIS and you can drop any data onto it if you want to. If you find it interesting, useful, you can drop some data onto that to play with. So, I've already gone past the 5 minutes, so it's a good thing Chrissy didn't come here because I've used up all of the time. But just briefly, one of the things I was going to hand over to her is to move into the Trent Valley south of Derby. So the marvellous thing about the fenland is that the astonishing thing about the fenland is I can just use that colour ramp and apply it to 4,000 square kilometres of land, and it works. You know, it's like there are no gradients. It is flat, but obviously incredible fine detailed topography makes an enormous difference. River valleys, this is a relative elevation model. I've taken out the river gradient. It's only a small stretch, but it still makes a difference to look at fine topography in a different sort of way. The Henrington Terrace, Home Pierpont Terrace, lots of things up here, Potnock Cursus, Henry's monuments, barrows, Iron Age and Roman settlements. We've been doing a lot of work, which we've been writing up in quarry on this bank here of the river, and in fact the quarrying has just moved over to this side, and that was the bit that I was just going to show to sort of finish off, but I'm going to finish off now, because there's no crop marks on the side. And we looked at that and thought, well, is there any stable land there at all? It's all been reworked and moved. Over here we had Anglo-Saxon fish weirs out here, so it seems like the river has moved across the floodplain quite considerably sort of since the Iron Age and Roman periods. So what could there be in this landscape? This is the old Trent, taking the Vikings up to Repton. That's been there a very long time. Other features sort of running through this landscape here. A lot of Never River has moved over all of this. Could there be anything in this landscape? Because we don't really see anything. On the other bank of the river, we see these photographs of pit alignments, and they were excavated way back in the 1990s. But as they started on the southern bank, it's just a case of you can't see. Down here, we've got this, which is a post alignment. Iron Age post alignment, which is not here, I don't remember the precise dates, but it runs for 250 metres across this landscape, and we don't see it from the air at all. Now there's an awful lot. There is alluvium over the top of a lot of that. And it's still going. The reason Chrissy isn't here is that she's been out in this stretch of the quarry. Well, I say it's still going. We're starting to strip. We'll find out if it's still going. Interesting in this case, it is cut through by that channel there, but what we can't see in the surface expression, I've got a lot of time poring over these things, is that there is a channel, can't see it, there's a channel through there which is actually earlier than this, and we can't really see that either. We'll sort of look at this, as I say, we were surprised that there was much stable land in there that was not really there. The river had not moved across it at all since the Iron Age. And down to our last minute or so, with apologies to Chrissy, again, we're using this, we're involved in these sort of schemes and pipelines through the bends. She's been out sort of with rigs, digging holes, taking samples out of some of these deposits and trying to date things and looking at where the peak is going on. So this research goes on in the fenland. It goes on, this is up into the Antrim Valley, rivers again, North Lincolnshire going up to the Humber, talking about deflated peat, loads of peat on the BGS mapping. It's all in the plough zone now. We go out there and dig it as we come through, but again, using the Lidar to look at the old channels. I'll tell you more about it, but I think I'm just about out of time. So we'll go back to that. Email address at the bottom. If anyone should know, just write me a tea, or if anyone wants to ask any further questions about it.